Jake Miller was driving home on a dark country road in Ohio. It was almost midnight. He had just finished a long shift at the car repair shop where he worked. His eyes were tired. His back hurt. All he wanted was to get home, eat some leftover pizza, and fall asleep on his couch. The road was empty. Fields of corn stretched out on both sides. The radio played an old country song. Jake hummed along, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Then the light came dotted started as a small glow in the sky. Jake thought it was a plane at first, but it grew brighter and brighter. Soon, the entire road was filled with white light. It was so bright that Jake could not see anything else. He slammed on the brakes. His truck skidded and stopped in the middle of the road. The light was all around him now. It was warm. It made his skin tingle. Jake tried to open the door, but his body would not move. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The light pulled him upward. He felt himself floating out of his seat, through the roof of his truck, into the sky. Then everything went black. When Jake opened his eyes, he was lying on a cold metal floor. The air smelled strange, like chemicals and flowers mixed together. He sat up slowly and looked around. He was in a large white room. The walls were smooth and curved. There were no windows. Strange symbols glowed on the ceiling. Everything looked clean and new, like a hospital from a science fiction movie. Jake stood up. His legs felt weak, but he could walk. His legs felt weak, but he could walk. He was still wearing his work clothes, dirty jeans, and a gray t-shirt. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. A door opened on the far side of the room. Jake stepped back quickly. His heart was beating fast. Tall figures walked through the door. They were not human. They had 2 arms and 2 legs like humans. But their skin was pale blue, like the sky on a clear morning. Their eyes were large and silver, with no visible pupils. They were thin and graceful, almost 7 feet tall. They wore long white robes that flowed like water. Jake counted 8 of them. 4 of them carried weapons that looked like silver tubes. They pointed these weapons at him. One of the aliens said something. The words sounded like music, soft and flowing. Jake did not understand. "I don't know what you're saying," Jake said. His voice shook a little. "Where am I? What is this place?" The aliens looked at each other. One of them touched a small device on its wrist. It spoke again, and this time, Jake could understand. "You are on Station Valen, in the outer ring of the Galactic Union. You were collected from your planet for study. Please remain calm." Jake's mouth fell open. "Galactic Union? What are you talking about? Am I in space?" "Yes. You are approximately 40,000 light years from your home world." Jake felt dizzy. He put his hand against the wall to steady himself. This had to be a dream. It had to be. Things like this did not happen to regular people from Ohio. More aliens entered the room. They stood along the walls, watching him with those strange silver eyes. Some of them whispered to each other. Jake heard words he did not understand. Then the main door opened again. Everyone in the room went quiet. A young female alien walked in. Jake could tell she was female by the softer shape of her face and the longer flowing robes she wore. Her robes were different from the others, made of shimmering gold and silver fabric. Small jewels sparkled in her long white hair. A thin golden crown sat on her head. She was clearly important. The other aliens bowed their heads as she passed. The young alien walked toward Jake with careful steps. Her silver eyes studied him from head to toe. Jake stood still, unsure what to do. Should he bow? Wave? He decided to just stay quiet and wait. The alien princess stopped about 10 feet away from him. She opened her mouth to speak. Then she saw his eyes. Her face changed in an instant. The color drained from her blue skin until it was almost white. Her silver eyes went wide with fear. She stumbled backwards so fast that she nearly fell. Her attendant caught her arm and held her up. The princess was shaking. Her whole body trembled like a leaf in the wind. She whispered something in her own language. The words spread through the room like fire. Every alien in the room took a step back. The guards raised their weapons higher. Some of them were shaking too. Jake looked around in confusion. What? What did I do? The princess pointed at him with a trembling finger. Her voice came through the translator, high and frightened. Predator, she whispered. He has the eyes of a predator. Jake touched his own face. His eyes? What was wrong with his eyes? They were just normal brown eyes. He had the same eyes as his father and grandfather. I don't understand, Jake said. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm just a mechanic. I fix cars. But the aliens were not listening. They were too scared. The princess was now standing behind her guards, peeking at Jake like he was a dangerous animal that might attack at any moment. An older alien, one with gray in his white hair, stepped forward. He seemed less afraid than the others, though his hands were shaking. You are human, yes? He asked through the translator. Yes, my name is Jake Miller. I'm from Ohio. It's a state in a country called America, on a planet called Earth. The old alien nodded slowly. We know of Earth. We have watched your planet for many centuries. He paused and took a deep breath. Earth is classified as a Category 7 death world, the most dangerous classification in our records. Jake blinked. Death world? Earth? But it's just Earth. It has trees and lakes and cities. People live there. Billions of people. The old alien stared at him with something that looked like horror and amazement mixed together. Yes, he said quietly. That is exactly what makes it so terrifying. Jake wanted to ask more questions. He wanted to understand why everyone was so afraid of him. But before he could speak, the princess gave an order. Guards moved forward and surrounded him. Take him to the containment chamber, she commanded. Her voice was still shaky. Use maximum security protocols. Do not touch him directly. Do not let him touch anything. Jake raised his hands to show he meant no harm. Hey, wait. I'm not dangerous. I just want to go home. The princess looked at him one more time. Her silver eyes were full of fear, but also something else. Curiosity, perhaps, wonder. Home, she repeated softly. You wish to return to a world that would kill any of us in minutes. A world of poison air and burning sunlight and crushing gravity. She shook her head slowly. What manner of creature are you? Jake had no answer. He was just Jake, a normal guy who liked football and barbecue and action movies. He had never thought of himself as special or dangerous. But as the guards led him away, he saw his reflection in the polished metal wall. He saw his forward-facing eyes, his thick muscles, his heavy bones. He saw the scars on his hands from years of hard work. For the first time in his life, he wondered if maybe he was not as ordinary as he had always believed. The containment chamber door closed, behind him with a heavy sound. Jake was alone in a small room with white walls and a single bed. A camera watched him from the ceiling, somewhere on the other side of those walls. An alien princess was trying to understand how something so terrifying could look so calm. And Jake Miller, mechanic from Ohio, was trying to understand how he had become the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. 3 days passed. Jake spent most of his time sitting on his bed, staring at the white walls of his containment chamber. Food came through a small slot in the door, 3 times a day. The food was strange, soft cubes that tasted like nothing, but they filled his stomach. No one came to talk to him. No one answered when he shouted. He was completely alone. On the 4th day, the wall across from his bed suddenly became transparent. Jake jumped off his bed in surprise. He could now see into the next room through what looked like thick glass. Princess Lyra stood on the other side. She was wearing simpler robes today, light blue with silver edges. Her white hair was pulled back from her face. She looked nervous, but she was not running away this time. "Can you hear me?" Her voice came through a speaker in the ceiling. Jake walked closer to the glass. "Yes, I can hear you." "Good. The translation device is working properly." She took a small breath. "I am Princess Lyra of House Valen. I apologize for keeping you in isolation. We needed time to prepare." "Prepare for what?" "To study you. To understand what you are." She paused. "May I ask you some questions?" Jake shrugged. "I've got nothing else to do." Lyra nodded. She touched a device on her wrist, and a small screen appeared in the air in front of her. Jake could see images and text floating on the screen, though he could not read the alien writing. "You come from the planet called Earth," Lyra began. "Our records show that Earth is a Category 7 death world. Only 12 planets in the known galaxy have this classification. None of the others have intelligent life." She looked up at him. "Except yours." Jake sat down on the floor, crossing his legs. "You keep saying death world. What does that mean exactly?" Lyra took a deep breath. "A death world is a planet where conditions are extremely hostile to life. High radiation, extreme temperatures, dangerous atmosphere, heavy gravity, aggressive life forms." She looked at her screen again. "Your planet has all of these things." Jake laughed. "Earth? Hostile? I mean, sure, some places are dangerous, but most of it is pretty nice." Lyra stared at him. "Your sun produces radiation that would blind my species in minutes. The oxygen in your air is poisonous to most life forms in the galaxy. Your gravity is 1.5 times the galactic standard. The water you drink is a universal solvent that can break down almost any material." Jake blinked. "Water? You're scared of water?" "It is incredibly dangerous. It destroys metal. It dissolves chemicals. It can drown creatures in minutes." Lyra shook her head. "And your species drinks it. For pleasure." Jake thought about this for a moment. "I guess I never thought about it that way." Lyra continued reading from her screen. "Your planet has extreme temperatures. Some regions reach 40 degrees above freezing. Others drop 40 degrees below. Your species survives in all of these conditions." "Yeah, we use clothes and buildings to help with that." "You survive without them too. Our records show humans walking in snow with minimal covering, swimming in frozen lakes, running through deserts under direct sunlight." Lyra's voice grew higher with each sentence. "Your species hunts large predators for sport. You climb mountains where there is not enough air to breathe. You strap yourselves to machines that fly through the sky at impossible speeds." Jake scratched his head. "Well, when you put it like that, it does sound kind of crazy." "It is not crazy. It is impossible." Lyra put down her screen and stepped closer to the glass. "Do you understand? No species should be able to do what yours does. You should not exist." Jake stood up and walked to the glass too. They were only a few feet apart now, separated by the thick, transparent barrier. "But we do exist," Jake said quietly. 8 billion of us." Lyra's silver eyes went wide. 8 billion? On one planet? "Yeah, is that a lot?" "The Galactic Union has 300 member species spread across 1,000 worlds. Our total population is approximately 4 billion. She pressed her hand against the glass. "You have twice our number on a single death world." Jake let out a low whistle. "Wow, I had no idea." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, "What do you eat?" "Everything," Jake said. "Plants, animals, grains, fruits, vegetables. Some people eat insects too. You eat other living things?" "Of course." don't you? Lyra shook her head. We consume nutrients synthesized from minerals and light. Eating living things is considered barbaric in the galaxy. Jake thought about all the hamburgers and steaks he had eaten in his life. Sorry, I guess. It's just what we do. Lyra pulled up more information on her screen. Your species heals rapidly. A broken bone repairs itself in weeks. Cuts and wounds close in days. You can lose large amounts of blood and survive. Sure, the body heals itself. That's normal. It is not normal. For my species, a broken bone never heals. We must replace it with artificial material. Deep wounds become permanent. Blood loss of more than 10% is usually fatal. Jake felt a strange mix of emotions. He was starting to understand why they were so afraid of him. To them, humans were like monsters from a nightmare, creatures that could survive anything. Can I ask you something? Jake said. Lyra nodded. If Earth is so dangerous and humans are so scary, why did you bring me here? Why not just leave us alone? Lyra looked down at her feet. That was not my decision. The Science Council believed that studying a live human could help us understand how life adapts to extreme conditions. She paused. Also, there are some in the Union who are afraid. They worry that someday humans will leave their planet and enter the galaxy. And then what? Lyra met his eyes. And then they might conquer everything. Your species is stronger, faster, and more resilient than any other known life form. If you decided to wage war on the galaxy, no one could stop you. Jake shook his head firmly. We're not like that. Most humans just want to live their lives in peace. We have families, jobs, dreams. We're not conquerors. You have wars on your planet. Many wars. Millions of your own species have died in conflicts. Jake could not argue with that. Human history was filled with violence and bloodshed. But it was also filled with kindness, art, music, and love. We fight each other sometimes, Jake admitted. But we also help each other. When disasters happen, people from all over the world send aid. When someone is in trouble, strangers will risk their lives to help. Lyra tilted her head, studying him with those big silver eyes. You are a strange species, maybe, but we're not monsters. They stood in silence for a while. Jake noticed that Lyra's posture had relaxed a little. She was not trembling anymore. She was still cautious, but not as terrified as before. I want to show you something, Lyra said. She touched her device, and images appeared on the glass wall between them. Jake saw pictures of Earth from space. He saw the blue oceans, the green forests, the swirling white clouds. He saw cities lit up at night like scattered jewels. He saw mountains and deserts and ice caps. This is your home, Lyra said softly. When our scouts first discovered it, they could not believe any life existed there. The radiation levels alone should have sterilized the surface. But then we saw your cities, your technology, your art. She showed him more images. Human paintings, sculptures, buildings. The pyramids of Egypt. The Great Wall of China. Skyscrapers reaching toward the sky. You built all of this, Lyra continued, on a world that should have killed you. Against all odds, your species not only survived, but created beauty. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. That is why I wanted to study you personally. Not because I fear you, though I do, but because I am amazed by you. Jake felt a warmth in his chest. It was nice to hear something positive after days of being treated like a dangerous animal. Thank you, he said, for seeing us as more than just monsters. Lyra smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, but it changed her whole face. She looked younger, softer, almost beautiful in an alien way. I will come back tomorrow, she said. I have many more questions. I'll be here, Jake replied. It's not like I can go anywhere." Lyra laughed, a sound like small bells ringing. Then she turned and walked away. The glass wall became solid white again, and Jake was alone once more. But this time, he did not feel quite so lonely. Somewhere on this strange space station, an alien princess was beginning to see humans as something more than nightmares. And Jake was beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, he had found a friend 40,000 light years from home. Weeks passed on Station Valen. Every day, Princess Lyra came to visit Jake. They talked through the glass wall for hours at a time. She asked questions about Earth, about humans, about Jake's life. He answered honestly, and she listened with growing wonder. Jake learned things about the galaxy too. He learned that the Galactic Union had existed for over 50,000 years. He learned that most species in the galaxy were peaceful, having evolved from prey animals on gentle worlds. He learned that humans were the only intelligent species to evolve from predators. "Your eyes face forward," Lyra explained one afternoon. "This allows you to focus on a single target, to track movement, to judge distance for hunting." Jake touched his face near his eyes. "I never really thought about it. My eyes are on the sides of my head, like all prey species. We evolved to watch for danger from all directions. We see wide, not deep." Lyra pressed closer to the glass. "When I look at your eyes, some ancient part of my brain screams that I am being hunted. But you don't run away anymore. No, I have learned that you do not want to hurt me." She paused. "It is a strange feeling. My instincts say you are dangerous, but my mind says you are kind." Jake smiled. "That's probably the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." Lyra laughed, that musical sound that Jake had grown to love hearing. She laughed more often now. She smiled more too. The fear had not completely disappeared from her silver eyes, but it had become smaller, pushed aside by curiosity and something that might have been affection. One day, Jake asked about her crown. "You are a princess," he said. "What does that mean here? Do you rule a planet?" Lyra shook her head. "House Valen oversees this station and the surrounding star systems. My father is the High Lord. When he passes, leadership will go to my older brother." She looked down at her hands. "I am only the third child. My duty is to serve the family through science and diplomacy." "That sounds lonely." Lyra looked up, surprised. "Why do you say that? You spend all your time studying things and talking to people from other worlds. But do you have friends? People your own age who care about you?" Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "In royal families, friendship is complicated. Everyone wants something from you. Allies, favors, marriages. It is difficult to know who truly cares and who is simply using you." Jake nodded slowly. "I think I understand. Back on Earth, I was just a regular guy. Nobody special. But that meant my friends were real friends. They liked me for who I was, not for what I could give them." "I envy that," Lyra said softly. "Well, you have one real friend now." Jake put his hand against the glass. "I don't want anything from you, Lyra. I just like talking to you." Lyra stared at his hand. Then, slowly, she raised her own hand and pressed it against the glass on her side. Their hands were almost the same size, though her fingers were longer and thinner. "Thank you, Jake," she whispered. After that day, something changed between them. Their conversations became more personal. Lyra told Jake about her childhood, about the pressure of being a princess, about her dreams of exploring unknown worlds. Jake told her about growing up in a small town, about his parents who had passed away years ago, about the simple joys of fixing engines and watching sunsets. "You speak of death so calmly," Lyra observed one evening. "Your parents are gone, and you accept it." "I miss them every day," Jake admitted. "But death is part of life on Earth. Everything dies eventually." We learn to carry the sadness and keep living. My species lives for 300 years. Death is rare and shocking for us. Lyra tilted her head. How long do humans live? About 80 years, if we're lucky. Some more, some less. Lyra's eyes went wide. That is so short. How do you accomplish anything in such little time? Jake laughed. We work fast, I guess. Humans are always in a hurry. Maybe because we know our time is limited. Lyra was quiet for a while, processing this information. Then she said something that surprised Jake. I think that is beautiful. Beautiful? Living short lives? Yes. You know that every moment is precious. Every day matters. My species lives so long that we sometimes forget to appreciate what we have. She smiled sadly. You have taught me to see time differently. Jake felt his heart warm at her words. He had never thought of his short human lifespan as a gift before. The weeks continued to pass. Jake's containment chamber was upgraded. They gave him books translated into English, videos about the galaxy, better food. The scientists even let him exercise in a small gym, though they watched him carefully from behind protective barriers. One day, Lyra came to him with exciting news. The council has approved a request, she said, almost bouncing with happiness. Starting tomorrow, you may leave your chamber. You will have limited access to certain parts of the station. Jake jumped to his feet. Really? I can walk around? Yes, but you must wear a tracker, and guards will follow you at all times. Also, you must promise not to touch anyone directly. Why not? Lyra looked uncomfortable. Human hands are very strong. You could accidentally break bones. Also, there are bacteria on your skin that might be harmful to other species. Jake looked at his rough, calloused hands. I'm basically a walking biohazard, aren't I? A little bit, yes. But Lyra was smiling as she said it. The next day, Jake stepped out of his containment chamber for the first time in almost 2 months. The station was even more amazing than he had imagined. Long corridors stretched in every direction, filled with soft light and gentle music. Windows showed the stars outside, billions of points of light against the endless darkness of space. Aliens of many different species walked through the halls. Some were tall and blue like Lyra's people. Others were short with green skin and 4 arms. Some floated through the air like living clouds. A few were covered in fur or scales or feathers. All of them stopped and stared when Jake walked past. Some pressed against the walls to get away from him. Others whispered to each other, their voices full of fear and wonder. Lyra walked beside him, close but not touching. Her presence seemed to calm some of the other aliens. If the princess was not afraid, then maybe the human was safe. This is incredible, Jake breathed, looking out a window at a nearby planet. The planet was purple and covered with swirling storms. I never imagined anything like this. The galaxy is vast, Lyra said. There are wonders beyond counting. Nebulas painted in every color. Stars being born and dying. Civilizations older than your entire species. And now I'm part of it. Jake shook his head in amazement. A mechanic from Ohio standing at a space station, looking at alien worlds. Lyra touched his arm gently. It was the first time she had touched him directly. Her skin was cool and smooth, like polished stone. You are not just a mechanic anymore, Jake Miller, she said. You are the first human to make contact with the Galactic Union. You are a bridge between worlds. Jake looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Her silver eyes shimmered in the starlight. Is that why you saved me? He asked. To build a bridge? Lyra's cheeks turned a slightly darker shade of blue, which Jake had learned was her species' version of blushing. At first, yes. But now I save you because... She hesitated, searching for the right words. Because you are my friend. The first real friend I have ever had. Jake smiled and carefully placed his hand over hers, being gentle not to squeeze too hard. Then I'm the luckiest human in the universe, he said. They stood there for a long moment. Two souls from different worlds, connected by something stronger than fear. Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Indifferent to the small miracle happening on the station, Jake did not know what the future held. He did not know if he would ever see Earth again. But standing beside Lyra, watching the universe unfold before him, he realized that maybe being abducted by aliens was not the worst thing that had ever happened to him. Maybe it was the beginning of something wonderful. The alarm came without warning. Jake was in the observation deck, watching a distant nebula through the enormous windows. Lyra was beside him, explaining the different colors and what they meant. Everything was peaceful. Then red lights began flashing everywhere. A loud siren echoed through the station. Lyra's face went pale, and she grabbed her communication device. "Report," she commanded into the device. "What is happening?" A panicked voice answered. "Your Highness, enemy ships have entered the system. The Vorn Empire. They have surrounded the station." Jake saw Lyra's hands begin to shake. "The Vorn? How did they find us?" "Unknown. They are demanding surrender. Their fleet numbers 30 warships." Jake looked out the window. He could see them now, dark shapes moving against the stars. The ships were ugly, covered in sharp angles and weapons. They looked like predators circling their prey. "Who are the Vorn?" Jake asked. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Conquerors. Slavers. They have destroyed dozens of worlds. They take what they want and kill anyone who resists." Her silver eyes filled with tears. "My people cannot fight. We are not warriors. We will be captured, enslaved, killed." The station shook as something hit it. Jake grabbed Lyra to keep her from falling. Through the window, he saw one of the Vorn ships firing weapons at the station's outer hull. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Jake said. But before they could move, the doors burst open. Soldiers poured into the observation deck. They were Vorn. Jake realized immediately. They were tall and covered in dark green scales. Their eyes were yellow with black slits. They carried weapons that glowed with deadly energy. The lead Vorn soldier saw Lyra and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "The princess," he hissed. "The commanders will reward us greatly for capturing you." Guards from the station tried to fight back, but they were no match for the Vorn. Within seconds, they were all on the ground, some stunned, some dead. The Vorn soldiers laughed as they advanced toward Lyra. Jake stepped in front of her. The Vorn soldiers stopped. They stared at Jake with confusion. He was not tall like them. He did not have weapons. He was just a strange creature in simple clothes. "Move aside, small one," the lead soldier said. "Or die." Jake did not move. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "You are not taking her." The soldier laughed. "And who will stop us? You?" He pointed his weapon at Jake's chest. "What are you supposed to be?" "I'm human," Jake said. "From Earth." The laughter stopped. The Vorn soldiers looked at each other with sudden uncertainty. Jake saw something flicker in their yellow eyes. Fear. "Earth?" The lead soldier repeated. "The Death World? That is a myth. It's real. And so am I." The soldier tried to hide his fear with anger. He raised his weapon and fired directly at Jake's chest. The energy bolt hit Jake like a punch. It burned. It hurt more than anything he had ever felt. He staggered backward, his shirt smoking, but he did not fall. Jake looked down at his chest. The skin was red and blistered, but already he could feel his body working to heal the damage. Human bodies were tough. Human bodies could survive things that would kill other species. He looked up at the Vorn soldiers. They were staring at him in disbelief. Is that all you've got? Jake asked through gritted teeth. The lead soldier fired again. And again. Each shot pushed Jake back. Each shot burned his skin. But he kept standing. He kept walking forward. The soldiers began to panic. They fired wildly, hitting Jake from every direction. His clothes were torn. His body was covered in burns and wounds. The pain was incredible, but Jake had grown up on a death world. He had broken bones, been cut, been burned before. Pain was an old enemy, and he knew how to push through it. He reached the first soldier and grabbed his weapon. The metal bent and crumpled in Jake's hands like paper. The soldier tried to run, but Jake caught him by the arm. He squeezed. Bones snapped. The soldier screamed and fell to the ground. Jake turned to the next one, then the next. His movements were not fast by human standards, but compared to these aliens, he was lightning. His hands were not that strong by human standards, but compared to these aliens, he was a monster. The fight lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, 8 Vorn soldiers lay on the floor. Some were unconscious. Some were moaning in pain. None of them were dead. Jake did not want to kill anyone if he could avoid it. He turned back to Lyra. She was pressed against the wall, her hands over her mouth, her silver eyes wide as moons. "Are you okay?" Jake asked. His voice was rough with pain. Lyra could not speak. She just stared at him, at the burns covering his body, at the blood dripping from his wounds, at the way he stood there like nothing had happened. Jake swayed a little. The adrenaline was fading, and his injuries were catching up to him. "I think I need to sit down." He collapsed onto the floor. Lyra rushed to his side, kneeling beside him. Her cool hands touched his face. "You should be dead," she whispered. "You took enough damage to kill 100 of my people. You should be dead." Jake managed a weak smile. Humans are stubborn. More alarms sounded. The station shook again. Jake knew that this was not over. The Vorn had taken most of the station. The few soldiers here were just the beginning. "Can you walk?" Lyra asked. Jake tried to stand. His legs shook, but they held him up. "Yeah, I think so." "Then follow me. There's a secure room where the council is hiding. We need to get there." They moved through the corridors of the station. Everywhere they went, they saw signs of battle. Bodies on the floor. Walls scorched by weapon fire. Aliens of many species huddled in corners, too scared to move. The Vorn were everywhere. Jake and Lyra hid in shadows, moved through maintenance tunnels, avoided patrols. But eventually, they were spotted. A group of 20 Vorn soldiers blocked the corridor ahead. Behind them, Jake could see the door to the secure room. So close, but impossible to reach. "There's the princess," one of the soldiers shouted. "And that human thing is with her. The one that took out Squad 7. The soldiers raised their weapons. Jake stepped in front of Lyra again. "Jake, no," Lyra pleaded. "There are too many. You cannot survive this." Jake looked at the soldiers. 20 of them. All armed, all ready to kill. He thought about his life back on Earth, his small apartment, his old truck, his friends at the repair shop. He thought about his parents, waiting for him and whatever came after death. Then he thought about Lyra, her laugh like small bells, her silver eyes full of wonder, her hand against the glass, reaching out to him. "Maybe not," Jake said quietly. "But I can give you time to run. I will not leave you." Jake turned and looked at her. Really looked at her. The princess who had been terrified of him. The friend who had learned to see past her fear. The only being in the galaxy who truly knew him. "Lyra," he said gently, "I'm not afraid to die. But I am afraid of losing you. Please, run." Tears streamed down Lyra's blue cheeks. She wanted to argue. She wanted to stay. But she knew he was right. If she was captured, her people would lose hope. If she escaped, she could find help. She could save the station. "I will come back for you," she promised. "I know you will." Lyra ran. The soldiers tried to chase her, but Jake charged into them like a wild animal. He punched, kicked, grabbed, threw. They shot him again and again. His body screamed with pain. Blood poured from dozens of wounds, but he did not stop. He could not stop. Not until Lyra was safe. The last thing Jake saw before he collapsed was the door closing behind Lyra. She had made it. She was safe. He smiled, even as darkness took him. The soldiers stood over his broken body, staring in disbelief. They had never seen anything like this. A creature that refused to die. A being that fought like a demon even as its body was destroyed. The legend of the human had begun. Jake woke up in chains. His arms were bound to the wall above his head. His feet barely touched the floor. Every part of his body hurt. When he opened his eyes, he saw a dark room with metal walls. Vorn soldiers stood guard at the door, watching him with a mixture of fear and hatred. A large Vorn entered the room. He was bigger than the others, his scales darker, his eyes colder. Gold bands wrapped around his arms, marking him as someone important. A commander, perhaps. "So this is the human," the commander said, circling Jake slowly. "The creature that killed 30 of my soldiers." Jake's throat was dry. It hurt to speak. "I didn't kill anyone. They're just hurt." The commander stopped and stared at him. "You crushed bones. You broke limbs. Some of my soldiers will never walk again. And you say you did not try to kill them? If I had tried to kill them, they would be dead." The commander hissed softly. It might have been laughter. "You are interesting, human. The stories about your kind are true, it seems. You are monsters wrapped in soft skin." Jake did not respond. He was too tired to argue. The commander continued. "Your princess escaped. She made it to a communication station and sent a distress signal before we could stop her. A Union fleet is on its way." He leaned closer to Jake's face. "But they will arrive too late. By then, this station will be destroyed, and everyone on it will be dead, including you. Then why are you talking to me instead of killing me?" The commander smiled, showing those terrible sharp teeth. "Because you fought alone against overwhelming odds to protect someone else. That takes courage. Even among my people, courage is respected." He pulled back. "Also, I want to understand you. How can such a small creature be so difficult to destroy?" Jake let out a weak laugh. "On Earth, we have a saying. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. A foolish saying. Damage is damage. Wounds are wounds. Not for humans. Our bodies learn from pain. Our bones become denser after they heal. Our muscles grow stronger after they tear. Every time you hurt us, we come back harder." The commander's eyes narrowed. "That is impossible. Come to Earth sometime. You'll see impossible things everywhere." The commander stared at Jake for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward the door. "Kill him," he ordered his soldiers. "Use enough force to be certain. I do not want him getting back up." The soldiers raised their weapons. Jake closed his eyes. He thought about Lyra. He hoped she was safe. He hoped she would remember him kindly. The door exploded. The blast threw the soldiers across the room. Through the smoke and debris, Jake saw figures rushing in. They moved fast, faster than any alien Jake had seen. They wore gleaming armor and carried weapons that hummed with power. And at the front of them was Lyra. She was not wearing her princess robes anymore. She was dressed in some kind of combat suit, light and flexible. Her silver eyes blazed with determination. In her hands was a weapon that glowed bright blue, Release him. She shouted at the remaining soldiers. Now. The Vorn commander drew his own weapon and pointed it at Jake's head. One more step, princess, and the human dies. Lyra stopped. Her soldiers stopped too. The room was frozen, everyone waiting. The commander laughed. You came all this way for this creature? You brought soldiers and weapons to save one human? He saved me first, Lyra said quietly. He protected me when no one else could. How touching. But you are too late. Even if you kill me, my ships have orders to destroy this station. Your people will die. Your precious human will die. And the Vorn Empire will triumph. Jake opened his eyes and looked at Lyra. She was so brave. So beautiful. She had come back for him, just like she promised. Lyra, he said softly. It's okay. Save your people. Don't worry about me. Tears filled her silver eyes. I cannot lose you, Jake. I will not. The commander pressed his weapon harder against Jake's head. Enough of this. Say goodbye to your pet, princess. Jake felt the cold metal against his skull. He had seconds left to live. Maybe less, but something strange happened. Instead of fear, Jake felt calm. His mind became clear. His body stopped hurting. He remembered everything he had learned about humans in the past few months. About their strength, their resilience, their stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Humans were deathworlders. They survived against impossible odds. They never gave up. Jake moved. His body screamed in protest, but he ignored it. He twisted his hands into chains, feeling the metal cut into his skin. He pulled with all his remaining strength. Blood ran down his arms. The chains broke. The commander barely had time to react before Jake's hand was around his throat. The weapon fired, but Jake had already moved his head. The energy bolt burned past his ear and hit the wall behind him. Jake squeezed. The commander's scales cracked. His yellow eyes bulged. Tell your ships to stand down, Jake said. His voice was calm, cold, completely controlled. Tell them now, or I will crush your throat. The commander tried to speak, but Jake's grip was too tight. He managed to croak out a command into his communication device. Seconds later, the rumble of weapons fire outside the station stopped. Jake released the commander, who fell to the floor, gasping for air. Lyra's soldiers quickly surrounded the remaining Vorn and took them prisoner. Lyra rushed to Jake. She caught him as his legs finally gave out. They sank to the floor together, holding each other. You came back, Jake whispered. I promised I would. Lyra was crying now, tears streaming down her blue cheeks. When I heard they had captured you, I could not breathe. I thought I had lost you. I'm hard to kill. Remember? Lyra laughed through her tears. I remember. You impossible, terrifying, wonderful creature. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two souls from different worlds, holding on to each other like nothing else mattered. The Union fleet arrived hours later. The Vorn were captured, their ships disabled, their commanders arrested. Station Valen was saved. Word of what happened spread across the galaxy like fire. A single human had held off an entire invasion force. A single Deathworlder had done what armies could not. The Galactic Union could no longer ignore humanity. Emergency meetings were called. The quarantine of Earth was officially ended. For the first time in history, diplomatic ships were sent to make contact with the human race. Princess Lyra was chosen as the ambassador to Earth. She requested that Jake accompany her as their ship approached the blue and green planet. Jake stood at the window, watching his home grow larger. He had been gone for almost 4 months. He wondered if anyone had noticed. He wondered if his old life was still waiting for him. Lyra came to stand beside him. She slipped her hand into his. Are you nervous? She asked. A little. I don't know how to explain any of this to people back home. You could start by telling them you saved an alien princess from space pirates. Jake laughed. Nobody would believe that. Then I will tell them myself. Lyra squeezed his hand. I will tell them that their Jake Miller is a hero. That he changed the galaxy forever. That he showed us all that humans are not just monsters to be feared, but friends to be cherished. Jake looked at her, at this strange and wonderful being who had gone from fearing him to loving him. He still did not fully understand how it had happened. He was just a mechanic from Ohio. He had never asked for adventure or fame. But looking at Lyra, looking at the stars behind her, looking at the infinite possibilities stretching out before them, he realized that maybe being ordinary was overrated. So what happens now? He asked. Lyra smiled, her silver eyes shining with hope. Now, Jake Miller, we introduce humanity to the galaxy. And we hope they are ready for you. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere. Below, a whole planet waited, unaware that everything was about to change. And somewhere among the stars, a new saying spread from world to world, passed from species to species, whispered in fear and wonder. Never threaten what a human protects, for they will fight like demons. They will endure like mountains, and they will never, ever, ever give up.